Pastor, the old dog, hadn't budged from his spot for 3 hours. He sat stiff as a rock, his yellow eyes glued to the old barn like he saw something nobody else could. But that barn? Totally empty. It had been for months. Thaddeus Bell, a tough, old rancher, wiped sweat off his rough hands and put down his axe. The wood could wait. Something was off with his dog. Out here in this lonely place, Pastor was his only real buddy. For weeks, Pastor had been acting weird, pacing the porch at sunset, whining at shadows, and not touching his dinner scraps. But this staring? That was new. Thaddeus walked across the dusty yard, his boots crunching the dry ground. Pastor's ears flicked when he got close, but the dog didn't look at him, didn't even blink. His whole body shook like he was ready to explode. "What's up, boy?" Thaddeus whispered, kneeling next to his loyal pal. He looked where Pastor was staring, at the barn's dark doorway. Nothing but shadows and quiet. Same old rotting wood. Same rusty tools on their hooks. Same empty stalls since Martha, his wife, passed away. But Pastor's nose twitched. His breathing got faster. Then Thaddeus heard it too, a tiny scratching sound, like claws on wood or something trying to dig out. Pastor's fur bristled. His lips pulled back to show yellow teeth, but he didn't growl. Just silence, heavy and creepy. Pastor was scared. This dog, who'd faced wolves and snakes without blinking, was shaking like a leaf in a storm. That gave Thaddeus chills. In 45 years on this land, he'd never seen Pastor like this. The dog knew something, sensed something humans couldn't see, something pulling him to that spot like a magnet. The scratching came again, longer, more on purpose. Thaddeus stood slowly, his hand going to the knife on his belt. The barn looked normal old wood, rusty hinges, shadows dancing in the evening light. But Pastor's reaction said something was wrong. Something was hidden. Tomorrow, Thaddeus would figure out what his dog was trying to tell him, because whatever was near that barn wasn't staying quiet much longer. The next morning was gray and cold, but Pastor was still by the barn. He hadn't moved all night. Thaddeus watched from his bedroom window, seeing his dog's shape like a guard watching secrets. Now, in the kitchen with a cup of bitter coffee, Thaddeus looked at Pastor through the dirty window. The dog was getting worse. His ribs showed through his dull fur. He barely ate anymore. Something in that barn was stronger than hunger, stronger than his love for Thaddeus. Thaddeus pulled on his old jacket and stepped into the chilly morning. The air smelled like dust and dead grass. His boots clomped on the porch as he walked to Pastor. The dog's ears flicked, but his eyes stayed on the barn. "Out here all night again, huh?" Thaddeus said softly, kneeling by his friend. Pastor's fur was wet with dew, cold to touch. "What's got you so scared, buddy?" Pastor's nose twitched, his breathing quick and short. Then he did something new. He whined, a sad sound that made Thaddeus's heart hurt. In 12 years together, through tough winters and lonely nights after Martha died, Pastor never showed weakness. But this wasn't just fear. It was something bigger. Thaddeus looked at the barn's east wall, where Pastor stared. The wood looked old and gray, like always. But in the morning light, he saw something weird. The dirt near the barn's base was darker, like someone had messed with it recently. He walked closer, Pastor following quietly. The soil was loose, not hard like the rest of the yard. Someone had been digging here, maybe a day or two ago. But who? The nearest neighbor, Ezra Crow, lived 5 miles away. Nobody else came out this far. Nobody even knew this place existed. Pastor froze, his nose pointing at a spot by the barn's corner where the dirt looked freshly turned. Thaddeus knelt and brushed the soil with his fingers. It was soft, and under it, he felt something, not dirt, but something smooth, like cloth. Pastor whined again, backing away like the spot hurt him. Thaddeus's mind raced. Someone buried something on his land near his barn, something that made his dog act like a monster was coming. What was it, and who hid it? Thaddeus went to get his shovel, his head full of questions. Pastor followed, stopping every few steps to look back at the barn, like something might jump out. The shovel felt heavy in Thaddeus's rough hands as he returned. Pastor whined and stayed on the porch, watching from far away. The dog's fear spread to Thaddeus, his heart pounding as he started digging. The first scoop was easy too easy. Whoever dug here didn't pack the dirt well. They were in a hurry or scared. 6 inches down, the shovel hit something solid. Not a rock, but something soft that gave a little. Thaddeus's throat went dry. He knelt and brushed away dirt, finding a corner of rough canvas that smelled bad, like something rotten. Pastor barked once, loud and urgent, then went quiet. Thaddeus found an edge of the canvas and pulled. It was wrapped around something big, hidden carefully. As he pulled more, a gross smell hit him, sweet and nasty, like spoiled meat. He knew that smell. Every rancher did. His hand shook as he uncovered more canvas. Inside was pale skin, a human hand, stiff, with a thin gold ring on one finger. A woman's hand. Thaddeus stumbled back, feeling sick. Someone buried a dead woman on his land. The smell said she hadn't been dead long. The canvas was messy, but on purpose, like someone wanted to hide a crime. Why here? Why his land? Pastor whined from the porch, his eyes wide, like he understood. The dog had known. He'd sensed death under the ground. That's what pulled him here night after night. Thaddeus looked closer at the hand. The skin was waxy, but the fingers were delicate, like someone who had a good life, not a drifter. Someone with a home? People who loved her. The gold ring shone in the morning light. Someone's wife or daughter who trusted the wrong person and died for it. A sound stopped him, cold hooves coming fast from the south road. Someone was riding toward the ranch. He tried to cover the hand with the canvas, but it was too late. They'd be here soon, and there was a dead woman in his yard with his shovel next to her. Pastor barked wildly, his warning loud across the empty land. Was he warning about the rider or something worse? Ezra Crow's horse galloped around the bend, kicking up dust like smoke. The old man's face was grim, his eyes scanning the ranch like a hunter. Thaddeus barely covered the body before Ezra stopped near the porch. "Morning, Thaddeus," Ezra said, but his voice was cold. His eyes locked on the shovel, the messed up dirt, the signs of digging. "Been doing some gardening, huh?" Pastor growled low, something he'd never done around a neighbor. The dog sensed danger. Thaddeus was starting to trust Pastor's instincts more than his own. "Just fixing some water problems," Thaddeus said, stepping between Ezra and the hidden grave. "Ground gets soft when it rains." Ezra got off his horse slowly, his boots heavy on the dirt. He was tall, lean, with soft hands that didn't look like a rancher's. His clothes were clean. His horse looked healthy. For a guy who said he struggled, Ezra seemed to be doing fine. "Funny thing about rain," Ezra said, walking toward the barn. "We haven't had any in 3 weeks." His eyes scanned the loose dirt, the covered mound. Pastor's growling. "What's got your dog so worked up?" Thaddeus felt sweat on his forehead despite the cool air. "He's been weird lately. Maybe smells a wolf pack passing by." "Wolves," Ezra nodded, but his hand rested on his gun. "They sense things we don't. Death, fear, guilt." His eyes locked on Thaddeus. "Sometimes they dig up things meant to stay hidden." The silence was tense, like a rope about to break. Pastor's growling got louder. The dog stood between Ezra and the house, ready to pounce. "I've been missing something," Ezra said casually. "Something valuable that went missing a week ago. A problem I needed to fix. Seen anything weird around here? Maybe someone passing through?" Thaddeus's mind raced. Ezra wasn't here by chance. He knew about the body. Maybe he buried it. Maybe he was checking if it was found. Either way, Ezra was dangerous and armed. "Haven't seen anything," Thaddeus said, his hand inching toward his own weapon. "Just drainage issues." Ezra smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "Drainage, sure." He glanced at Pastor, who was snarling. "That's a loyal dog. Protective. Would do anything for his owner." The threat was clear. If you were Thaddeus, what would you do? Confront Ezra about the body and risk a fight? Or act clueless and hope he leaves? Tell me in the comments. I need to know what you'd pick, because Thaddeus's next move would decide if he'd live to see another day. Pastor suddenly lunged not at Ezra, but toward the woods. His barking got crazy, urgent. More hooves at Chote Woman's throat. A fancy silver chain, almost hidden by the blood on her dress. But Thaddeus saw it now, a shiny pendant that stood out like a signal. That necklace meant more to these guys than the woman's life. Ezra backed toward his horse, finally pulling out his gun. "I didn't have time," he said. Jesse's voice was sharp. "That necklace is worth more than this whole ranch. You were supposed to take it off her before burying her." Thaddeus's mind clicked. They killed her for the necklace. Ezra was supposed to hide the body but got greedy and buried her with the treasure they stole. Pastor barked once, loud and warning, then ran toward the house. That was Thaddeus's only chance to move. He dove behind the barn as Jesse's bullet hit the wood near his head. Ezra fired back, and suddenly the two groups of bad guys were fighting each other, using Thaddeus's ranch as their battleground. Gunshots rang out fast and wild as old partners turned on each other. Thaddeus hit against the barn, bullets flying overhead. Men yelling curses. Through a crack in the wood, he saw Ezra behind his horse, shooting at Jesse's crew with cold focus. One of Jesse's men screamed and fell off his horse, blood on his shirt as he crawled for cover. Ezra was already aiming at him, ready to finish the job. "The necklace, Jesse!" Ezra yelled over the gunfire. "Tell me where you got it, and maybe we can talk." Jesse's shot hit a tree near Ezra's head. "Go to hell, you traitor!" Pastor ran to Thaddeus's side, panting but okay, shaking with excitement, like he knew justice was coming for the woman. But the fight wasn't over, and Thaddeus was stuck in the middle with no escape. The shooting went on forever, though it was probably just minutes. Thaddeus counted the shots, trying to figure out who was still dangerous. Ezra had good cover behind his horse, but Jesse's other guy was sneaking toward the house, trying to get behind Ezra. Then Thaddeus saw something chilling. The silver necklace on the woman's neck was catching the sunlight. It wasn't just jewelry. It was a locket, one that looked familiar, but he couldn't remember why. Pastor whined softly, nudging Thaddeus's hand towards something in the dirt near the barn. Thaddeus looked down and saw a corner of a letter, half buried. Without thinking, he grabbed it and stuffed it in his pocket. Suddenly, the gunfire stopped. The ranch was quiet, except for the heavy breathing and groans of the wounded. Thaddeus peeked around the barn and saw Ezra standing over Jesse's body, smoke coming from his gun. "Should have stayed out of it," Ezra muttered, then turned to the third man, crawling toward the trees, leaving blood in the dust. But Ezra didn't chase him. He walked to the grave, putting his gun away like he'd already won. His eyes were locked on the necklace, greedy and creepy. "Finally," Ezra said, kneeling by the body. "Should have done this myself from the start," Pastor growled as Ezra reached for the necklace. It was gross, him messing with the dead woman like she was nothing. Then Thaddeus saw the locket was open, showing a tiny photo inside, a picture of a man. Thaddeus's heart nearly stopped. It was his face, younger, from 15 years ago, but definitely him. This dead woman had his picture when she died. How? He'd never seen her before, never met anyone like her. But there was his face, close to her heart when she died. Ezra had the necklace now, looking at the locket with a grin, not noticing the photo yet. Thaddeus knew when he did, his own life was in danger. The wounded rider was gone in the woods, but his groans echoed back. More trouble would come soon. More killers, more fights, more fighting on this cursed land. And in his pocket, a letter waited, maybe explaining why this woman had his picture. Ezra's fingers stopped as he opened the locket and saw the photo. His face went from happy to confused to dangerous. He knew something. He looked around the barn, hand on his gun. "I know you're there, Thaddeus," Ezra called, his voice sharp. "Saw you hide when the shooting started. Come out. We need to talk about this picture." Thaddeus's mind was racing, pressed against the barn. The letter in his pocket felt heavy, begging to be read, but stepping out with Ezra armed and suspicious would be deadly. Pastor stayed close, ready to protect him. "Clock's ticking, neighbor," Ezra said, circling the barn. "This locket raises questions, like why she had your picture, or what you know about some bad deals." His boots got closer. Thaddeus, desperate, pulled out the crumpled letter and opened it with shaky hands. The paper was stained, but the writing was clear in a woman's handwriting. Urgent. My dearest Thomas, it started, and Thaddeus's world spun. Thomas was his middle name, used only by Martha. If you're reading this, something bad happened to me. I found the truth about Father's death, and they know I know. Ezra Crow killed him for the mine claims, but I have proof. The silver necklace has a map to the real Lucky Strike deposit. Father hid it there before he died, knowing Ezra would steal it all. I'm bringing this to you because you're the only honest man Father trusted. Your sister in spirit, if not blood, Delilah Rhodes's. The letter slipped from Thaddeus's hands. Delilah Rhodes is Martha's younger sister, who vanished 3 years ago while looking into their father's suspicious death. Martha thought she'd run away from grief, believing their father died in a riding accident, but it wasn't an accident. Ezra killed him for mining claims. Delilah figured it out and was bringing proof to Thaddeus, the man her sister married, the only one she trusted, and Ezra killed her for it. Time's up. Ezra's voice was close, right around the corner. Thaddeus stepped out, hands up, but his mind clear. Pastor moved with him, standing between his master and the killer. The dog's loyalty was total, even facing death. Ezra held the open locket in one hand, his gun in the other. So, you knew. Her, he said. Thought you might. That girl was too nosy, like her father. You killed her, Thaddeus said plainly, and her father, for mining claims that might not even exist. Ezra laughed, cold. They exist. Old Rhodeses found a huge treasure before he died but hid it. His daughter knew where to look. That necklace has a map inside, worth more than this whole territory. Was it worth their lives? Everything's worth something to someone, Ezra said, raising his gun. What's your life worth now that you know? The answer came from Pastor. The dog leaped at Ezra with a loud snarl, knocking him down, teeth aiming for his throat. Ezra's shot missed as 90 pounds of angry dog pinned him. If you're liking this story, subscribe to the channel. In the chaos, Thaddeus grabbed Jesse's, dropped gun, and fired. The bullet hit Ezra in the chest, just as he threw Pastor off and aimed again. The old killer fell back into the grave he'd dug, his blood mixing with the dirt that hid his crime. Pastor limped back to Thaddeus, hurt but alive. They stood over the scene, justice done. 2 killers dead, the woman's secrets out, and truth in silver, ready to honor a brave woman who died doing right. Later, after the sheriff came and took the bodies, Thaddeus buried Delilah Rhodes properly in the meadow by Martha. The silver necklace stayed with her. Some treasures are worth more than gold. Pastor never went back to watching the barn, but sometimes at night, Thaddeus found him by the graves, like he was guarding the peace that finally came to this haunted land. Now, click the video on the screen for another story from the untamed frontier, where secrets buried in the dirt always find a way out, and justice comes with a loyal dog's bark and the boom of honest gunfire. Click now.